Who's this guy?
What are you doing here?
What are you doing here? What are you in
Nothing.
jail for?
I was making a little bit of whiskey, that's all.
Why were you making whiskey?
You know what this means, don't you, Missy?
I do.
Yeah, well, you make $7 a gallon, at least.
So how much did you make total through your still?
Oh, I've lost count. I've been running that one for maybe 6 months. I can make about 40 gallons a week, sometimes more.
That one, have you run other ones before that?
Well, there wasn't much money to be made until a couple years ago when the state went dry. But I learned how to make this when I was a kid. My uncle taught me.
One of those. Have you been in jail before? You look like you have.
What's that supposed to mean, sweet pea? Huh?
You just seem like the type that'd be a criminal.
I
What have you done
I got
before?
picked up once, about a year ago. Well, I was working for a druggist and I sold a pint of whiskey to a 12-year-old kid. That's all. He said it was for his daddy.
And you believed him?
Sure I did. He said his dad had rheumatism or something like that.
So, are you going to have to do time for this? When do you find out what your sentence is?
Well, I'll go before a judge tomorrow morning probably, and if he's real ornery, he might give me 200 days at the work farm.
Work farm, where's that?
It's out by Greencastle.
What do they have you doing there?
Oh, I don't know, making bricks maybe, canning food, or who knows, breaking up rocks. They can't keep me forever. I get out, buy me a new still, get back into business.
But if you got in trouble, why would you do this again?
Well, there ain't no money in it if there ain't no trouble in it. You hear what I said, $7 a gallon. By the time I get out, it could be $8 a gallon.
How do the cops here treat you?
These cops here, all right, I suppose. I had 6 rifles in my face this morning.
Sounds like you're pretty experienced, so you make a lot?
Sure I do. I'd say 40 gallons a week, sometimes more. You know, I supply it to clubs here in the city, and they can sell it as soon as they get it. And they could sell it for even more money, too.
What did you do with all the money that you made so far?
Well, I ain't telling you, bub.
You didn't bury it somewhere while you're in here?
Maybe a few places. These flat-foot cops ain't gonna find it, I can tell you that.
Oh, well, good morning.
Hello.
I didn't hear anybody come in. Well, welcome to the Indianapolis Police Department headquarters. I'm Officer Emma Christie Baker. And your name?
I'm Angela.
I'm John.
John. Well, welcome, welcome. Good to meet you both.
Good to meet you.
What can we do for you?
Well, we were just coming to see what was going on here. We heard there had been a still busted for prohibition. Just coming in to hear about that.
Oh, yes, it happened early this morning, yes. Men part of our emergency squad, otherwise known as our booze squad. They traveled out to Wanamaker early this morning, about a half-mile east of New Bethel territory. And they picked up our moonshiner. His name is Roy Taylor. See. We've seen this fella before. He was actually booked for selling liquor to a minor not too terribly long ago. But the judge let him off without so much as a slap on the wrist.
So, were you involved in this raid?
Oh, no, no, no. Ladies don't often go out on those raids because they can be a little violent sometimes. I was here in the office taking care of things, inmates and whatnot, and processing people according to our booking system here, yes.
Is that typically what you do here on the police force?
Oh, it's a portion of what we do. I drew the short straw today, so I'm held up here in the office looking after the chicken coop. But normally undercover officers like myself, we walk a beat just the same as the men. Yes.
Okay.
Do you prefer that?
I do prefer that, yes, yes. Well, I don't like so much being cooped up here, no. Even though it's a winter day out there, I like to be out there and work my beat along Indiana Avenue.
I've never heard of there being police women. Is that
Yeah.
common around the country, or is that strictly in Indianapolis?
Oh, it's a fairly new animal here in Indianapolis, I'm afraid. I think the first female officer was out in LA around 1910, but just recently here, as recent as 1918, they started hiring ladies on the force. There was even an article in the Indianapolis Daily Times. They were looking for ladies for the first time. Reason being that ladies often deal a little better, a little easier with other ladies. See, sometimes men, God love them, they're a bit forceful sometimes. So ladies have that gentle touch that women and children just need.
Now, forgive me for asking, do you lady police officers make the same as the male police officers?
Actually, we do, yes.
That's remarkable. Are there a lot of women on this police force?
Presently, there are about 16 ladies. I was a part of the original Baker's Dozen, the 13 ladies that began in June 16th of 1918. Part of the reason we were hired on in the first place was related to prohibition law. The beginning stages of it had already happened then. Restrictions had been made, and it was getting awfully tough for the men to handle all the prohibition violators on top of their normal duties. So ladies picked up the slack.
So you said you process people too? Do you use, like, what is all of this?
Well, these are just some of the tools that we use as part of the Bertillon system. Have you heard of it?
No.
Well, you look like law-abiding citizens, so that's good to hear, actually. Well, with the Bertillon system, what we have is a series of measurements that we will take on each individual that is booked here with us. And what we make out are called Bertillon cards, identification cards, so that if someone tries to change their appearance in the future to get away from officers, we can rightly tell who they are. So, some of the tools you'll see down here before you are, this long rule here is for the measurement of your forearm. So, what an individual would be instructed to do would be to lay their elbow at the very edge of this rule here, and then extend out, make their hand into a spade, see? And we would measure to the tip of the middlemost finger, and that would be your forearm measurement. The idea being that with the forearm, it's not going to change very much throughout the length of your life.
Okay.
Think 18 or 88. It's going to be roughly the same.
Okay.
So another measuring tool we have here, it looks rather ghastly, but I promise it doesn't hurt you none. Yes. This is called the compass, and it's used for measurement of the cranium, the length and width of your head. So we've talked a little bit about these tools and how they help us take these measurements. I think it's time we see the final product.
Okay.
Somewhere between here and the card, we take a photograph of the individual. We take the front view, and we take a profile view. We ask them to turn to the left. And the end product looks something like this. Now, once we've taken the measurements, we also take a photograph with our little Brownie camera. And once we have the film developed, we paste the picture there at the center, and then we have a complete Bertillon card. So you'll see on the northern end of the card there, we have the crime they committed, so we'll write that in. We have the officers involved with the arrest. We have the residence of the individual, and then particulars about their appearance and their body are then recorded on there. So you can see there's quite a few measurements we take, even aspects of the eye we have to write down there as well, and their age and where they were born and what have you. And usually if they're not too ornery, this fella was a little bit rambunctious, but we asked them to sign their John Hancock there at the bottom, stating that all of this is true. And we put where they were booked. In this case, it was right here on Alabama at IPD headquarters. And this was on, actually, this was way back in December 4th, 1920. So,
Okay.
on the reverse side, there are also fingerprints.
So you're doing fingerprinting too, in addition to all this measurement.
Well, the fingerprints there is different as snowflakes. They're a very explicit way of telling who an individual is. So we are gaining more knowledge about this all the time. I know the boys in Washington have quite the expertise at it at this point. So we take the lay of the hand down here at the bottom, all four fingers splayed together, as well as each individual fingerprint up top here.
Okay. And then you store these here?
We do. We store them in-house. Ours are primarily, once they've aged, they go up on our second floor here with some of the ladies' offices and things. And some that are still active live here on the first floor with us.
Morning. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
What can we do for you?
We just heard the news. We wanted to come by and see the captured still here.
Well, this is it. I've never seen one this big. I mean, we get small ones all the time. Most of them aren't much bigger than one of those jugs down there. According to the Treasury guys, biggest one they've ever seen in this part of the country.
Wow, how did you find out about it?
Well, they'd gotten the tip. And then since it was still in the county in our jurisdiction, they asked us to go along with it. Of course, they're not telling us where they got the tip.
And it was just like one person that you caught along with this, or what did you catch there when you found out about
Well, there was
this?
only one guy working there at the time. Now, with the size of this thing, I can't imagine he didn't have other people going with him. But then again, he isn't exactly talking to us a whole lot right now.
Okay. How does this work?
And why do you want to know?
Well, we've not seen it
We
before.
do have enough problems with your type around here, you know.
Well, I mean, it's good to know how it works so that I can know never to get involved with it.
Oh, of course. Well, are you from Indiana?
No, from Illinois.
Okay, it's about the same thing. What's the biggest crop we got around here?
Corn?
That's right. And that's exactly what he was using to make the mash. He had about 200 gallons of that ready to go. And all you do is you take a little bit of the seed corn, can't be that sweet corn. Mix it with a little bit of that corn sugar down there, hot water, eventually it's going to malt itself up. That point on, whenever you're ready to use it, all you do is dump it in here, throw in some yeast, let it do its magic, fire up the burners. As soon as she starts boiling, that steam will rise and go right across the arm here, down into that thing over there. Now that's called a worm box. It'll be filled with cold water. Steam passes through the cold water, condenses itself back out. What you got? A little bit of that white lightning, white mule, who hit John, whatever you want to call it. Now stuff he was making, about 140 proof.
Wow.
Yeah, that'll put you on the rear end real quick. But to get it that strong, he would have had to run it through 3, 4, maybe 5 times.
Wow.
Of course, he'll make a lot more off of it that way too.
What did you do with the alcohol?
Well, except for the little bit we'll keep for the trial, poured it out. Got some mighty happy worms out there in Wanamaker right now.
Did you put this back together when you got it back here? Or did you bring it whole?
Brought it back in on that old wagon there. They loaned it to us. I mean, they couldn't have fit it in the package. And then it's not really in working condition right now, but we reassembled. They're supposed to have some folks out here from the Times later on take a photograph. Look on the front page tomorrow. It's supposed to be there.
Do you expect that he'll have a long sentence after his trial?
Well, that's totally up to the judge. But, I mean, he's had problems before. This thing's going to get all that publicity from the photograph, size of it. And from what I understand, Judge Pritchard may be the judge. And if that's the case, he's going to be spending quite a few days out of the work farm in Putnamville.
Praise God, it'll be Pritchard that'll hear this case. Hallelujah. That man understands the importance of prohibition. Last judge who tried Taylor when he sold alcohol to a 12-year-old boy, why, he let him walk. No fine, no jail time, absolutely nothing whatsoever. And we will be a sea, a veritable sea of white ribbons that will not be parted by Moses or any man. We will be a sea of white ribbons of retribution in that courtroom. I can guarantee you that there will be plenty of temperance women there who will make very certain that the judge sees us. Because you see, the judge has made a serious miscalculation in this case. We now have the vote, and that judge is my constituent.
What group are you a part of that you wear the white ribbon?
My dear, that is the Women's Christian Temperance Union. I've been a member of the Temperance Union since I was a babe in arms. My blessed sister Julia, may she rest in peace, took me to my very first temperance meeting when I was just a child, and so I have been steeped in the culture.
So you've never tried alcohol?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I come from a fine line of New England teetotalers. None of my family has ever been affected by the blight of alcoholism. Oh, I'm sorry. Here, let me give you my temperance pledge.
Thank you.
You will need this. This is a pledge that you take between you and your God. It's a very personal thing. You do not have to sign it in front of me. I've already signed my name as a witness. And you are pledging yourself, your immortal soul, to the idea that you will never have a drink again. Now, this is not something you take on lightly at all, because once you make a solemn vow between you and God, it's written in stone in heaven, and you will be held accountable when you go, when you are judged at the pearly gates. So be very certain, but once you do this, the light of Jesus will flow through you, and you will be lightened, and you will no more have that little tiny crack that Satan can put his lips to and whisper to you and try and bring you further and further into the bowels of alcoholism. Well, you have to understand that many people use alcohol as a false prophet. They view it as a conduit to creativity, and that's of the devil. That is not a pure conduit. If you put all of your energy into God, he will direct you into the purity of where your art forms should be, not the one that Satan is trying to manipulate you into through alcohol.